MacBook Pro flight ban spreads with one airline barring all MacBooks. This turned into a crazy story itself in relationship to the MacBook situation. It started with a recall from Apple saying, hey, some of these batteries are exploding in our 15-inch MacBook Pros sold in a certain time period, somewhere between 2015 and 17, I believe. And they put this page on their website where you could put your serial number in and see if your device was affected. It was a recall, so they were going to put a new battery in for you. This affected somewhere in the neighborhood of 460,000 units sold in the U.S. and Canada. And so some airlines, including the Federal Aviation Administration, who started the ban, some airlines took it upon themselves to figure out, to determine exactly which MacBooks they should be worried about. At first, it seems like they were trying to verify with individuals whether or not their MacBook was okay to be on the flight. Now, it turns out that's too difficult to do. So some airlines are like, look, we can't have our employees here checking serial numbers, verifying that this particular MacBook is okay and this one is not. And so some have opted to just completely ban these laptops from their flights. Australian airline Qantas has barred every MacBook Pro with a 15-inch screen, regardless of the manufacturing date, model, or serial number. Passengers can only carry them in the cabin and never turn them on, so they better bring something else to watch movies and so on. Virgin Australia has taken a more extreme path, banning every single MacBook, Pros, Airs, anything, regardless of screen size, starting on August 26th. So this is a pretty serious situation now. You assume that many of these carriers are going to want to hop on board. There's a couple others listed in Asia, Singapore, Cathay Pacific. If they all jump on board, your MacBook is useless to you now while you're on a flight, which is kind of, you got to get some work done. You got to watch a movie. This is I don't know if I've ever been on a flight without a person on a MacBook.
Right.
I don't think I've ever been on a flight where someone wasn't on their MacBook. So this is incredibly disruptive. It's coming into play in a big way starting now, August 26th. Well, that's already started as far as Virgin Australia is concerned. This is a thing you may bump into yourself if you try to jump on a flight here in the next little while and you've got a MacBook in your bag. They may be looking at you sideways, so I don't want you to be hit. Be aware in advance. Figure out what the airline you're about to fly, what their stance is on the situation, and prepare accordingly. Bring some other device with you as well, or I don't know, or get some other device in general in advance of traveling. It's pretty wild. I think, look, obviously this is overboard. Obviously the number of devices affected is not every single one. I mean, it would be worldwide news if everybody's MacBook was exploding. But these airlines, they got to be extra careful, right?
Because they got to take precautions.
Because it's even more so maybe than the phones exploding, because these batteries in these laptops are way bigger. Presumably, the amount of energy that these could excrete upon explosion should be substantially more than that of a phone, and therefore the fire is bigger. And I don't know. I mean, in an airplane, I'm kind of with it. I don't know. Imagine having that experience if your neighbor, the seat next to you, their MacBook, full out explosion, fire, seats on fire. That's pretty, from a brand perspective, as an airline, that's kind of the main thing you're trying to avoid. So I can't really blame them for it. It seems like the reasonable thing to do, especially when the brand themselves has said, look, our batteries in these models are volatile and so forth. You got to do the right thing in that case. So anyhow, just be aware. That's the moral here. Just be aware.